Good morning, everyone. Good morning. I was so honored to meet with some of our pastors before I came down to join you, and I just want to thank everybody for your leadership, and I'm just happy to be with you. So I want to just first of all just thank all of the leaders, Stephen Horsford and the Attorney General who is here, my dear friend, Rose McKinney James, Yuri Clinton, and of course Pat Spearman, who has been so incredibly supportive since the beginning. There's a lot to discuss, but this is our summit. This is a time for us to discuss the issues that challenge our communities, in a way also for us to rededicate ourselves to what we know is possible, but it will not be achieved without a fight. We all know that. We know that there has been nothing in our nation that we have achieved that has been about progress, be it social justice, civil rights, or our ongoing fight for equality. Nothing we have achieved has come about without a fight. And so we are prepared to have that fight. And on the issue then of the state of Black America, on the issue then of what we need to do to build communities, what we need to do to recognize the capacity, what we need to do to correct those things that have been the injustices that have led us to where we are today. There's a lot of work before us. I was talking about with the pastors just a few minutes ago about the fact that the goal for all communities should be that we have healthy communities. And if we are to understand then that healthy communities are productive communities, healthy communities are safe communities, healthy communities help us achieve all those things that are otherwise stated goals, the question then becomes, how do you achieve healthy communities? From my perspective, based on my many years of working on these issues, because I will tell you as a presidential candidate, I did not just acquire the language to talk about the things I'm talking about now. I did not just have a staff of people who are my campaign team who came up with the policies. For most of these issues, I have been working on them for years. And so I am clear that when we talk about the need to achieve healthy communities as the goal, it must be about a focus on what we need to do in terms of economic empowerment. So for example, one of my big areas of focus is what we need to do to build Black entrepreneurship, knowing that has always been one of the greatest sources of the economic health and well-being of our community. Knowing that our business leaders have always been not only leaders in business, but community leaders, civic leaders, the role models, those who would reach out to the members of the community and the younger members of the community and train and give them inspiration and guidance and mentorship. It's about recognizing healthy communities are achieved when we have affordable housing. And we got to recognize on that issue of affordable housing that for too long, Black families have been excluded from home ownership. Right? Quick history lesson. World War II. We don't even need to go back to 40 acres and a mule. World War II, the greatest generation, hundreds and thousands of people fought that war. They came back, and the federal government said, we will honor your service, and on your backs, we will build the middle class. And we know one of the greatest ways to build the economic power of a family is to help them with home ownership. So there was a federal push with resources focused on that greatest generation to help them buy homes. And guess who was excluded? Our Black service members. So then, what are we talking about? When there was an infusion of resources for some, there was nothing for others, contributing then to what had already been existing as a disparity based on institutionalized racism and, of course, years of slavery. Then, fast forward to the decades of redlining, where Black families were excluded from buying homes in communities which would see great appreciation in the value of those homes. Then you add on it, and Nevada knows this more than most, the foreclosure crisis, which came about, let's remember, because those banks had been targeting predatory loans in our community and so many others. And then we experienced foreclosure at a rate disproportionate to most other communities. So where does that leave us? Not have Okay, here's what I'm talking about. Intergenerational wealth. So let's say the son goes to the father and says, Daddy, I want to go to Howard University. Shameless plug. I want to go to Howard University. And the father says, son, you don't need to go out and take a loan from one of those predatory private lenders. I'll take some equity out the house and help you with tuition. Or maybe the daughter says, Mama, I would like to start a small business. And the mother says, honey, you don't have to take out a loan. I'll take some equity out the house to help you start that small business. Intergenerational wealth. What do we do to create healthy communities? It's about economic empowerment. It's about what we need to do in our public schools. Recognizing that we need a robust public education system, but since Brown v. Board of Education, I benefited from it, so many did. I was bused to school, y'all know about that now. Well, also, let's speak truth. After Brown v. Board of Education, certain families started moving their kids out of the public schools. And with that went the resources. And so we are looking in America today at probably equal, if not greater, segregation in our public schools based on race and based on economic situation. So healthy communities. Well, we achieve healthy communities by also investing in public education. That means starting with investing in our teachers. The first policy I rolled out as a candidate for president had to do with the need to close the teacher pay gap in America. Here in Nevada, it's $15,000 a year. I will put in place the first federal investment we've had ever in closing that teacher pay gap. Healthy communities. We pay attention to issues like public health and the need to have the resources in the community that are about the clinics, that are about the hospitals, that are about the specialists who can aid when we know our communities have for our babies some of the highest rates of asthma, that we still are so burdened with so many who have diabetes, but 1 in 4 cannot afford their insulin. Let's deal with the fact that black maternal mortality is an issue in America, where a black woman is 3 to 4 times more likely to die in connection with childbirth than other women. So I have a Medicare for All plan that says we're gonna have everybody covered. We're gonna bring down costs. We're gonna hold those insurance companies responsible by saying we're going to get rid of co-pays and deductibles, but also a point of distinction between me and some of the other people on the debate stage. I heard from folks, I'm not trying to get rid of private insurance. I'm going to leave you with the choice that you need to make about one of the most personal decisions in your life, which is your health care. Healthy communities. Well, we've had all this conversation about public health. You know what we have not been talking about? We talk about public health as though the body starts from the neck down. Let's talk about it from the neck up and talk about what we need in terms of mental health. Because I may not be walking around with a limp and a cast, but I need a little help. I mean, I'm running for president, I probably do. But we need to recognize that when we look at issues like childhood trauma, babies who are being raised in communities where they hear gunfire every night. Children who are being raised in poverty. Because let's be clear, poverty is trauma-inducing. And what are we doing then to build healthy communities around things like early detection and treatment of childhood trauma? And I could go on and on, the clock is ticking, so I'm going to bring it to a close. But I will say this. I believe in this presidential race that there is so much at the stake, and justice is on the ballot in 2020. Be it healthcare justice, criminal justice, I could go on and on about what we need to do to address that. Economic justice, educational justice, all these issues are on the table. And what we need on that debate stage as the nominee is somebody who has the ability to go toe-to-toe with Donald Trump, and I believe you're looking at her. And we need someone who has the ability to speak truth about these issues based on a long-standing, not only commitment, but experience of understanding what is involved and what needs to be done. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Harris.
Senator, we just have a couple of questions for you.
I want to discuss affordable housing. I asked another candidate, and I'd like your opinion.
Okay.
A lot of the focus on affordable housing relates to availability of affordable land. North Las Vegas, the community that I represent, and many of the surrounding communities have been impacted by the lack of available infill development and available land in predominantly Black neighborhoods. What can be done to make sure new affordable housing projects are developed in a way that serves those in urban areas and not the suburbs and the outlying areas?
That's right. So my whole economic agenda that includes, and I have a specific agenda that is what we have named our Black agenda, and please visit, because I can only get into so much detail with the time we have, but on my website. But on the issue of affordable housing, it's a very real issue. So a couple things. One, we know that Black families have 1/10 of the wealth of other families. And when you're looking at home ownership, the numbers are something like Black families, I think, have about 40% of home ownership versus 70-something% for other families. So it's a very real issue. Also the issue of affordable housing being rent. So part of my plan is that for anybody who's paying more than 30% of their income in rent plus utilities, you'll receive a tax credit. Because one of the byproducts of a lack of affordable housing is homelessness. And so we want to obviously do what we need to do to prevent that from happening. In terms of affordable housing, I have a multi-billion-dollar plan that's about investing in community, but doing it in a way that's about investing in affordable housing that includes bringing in our brothers and sisters from labor, building trades, to help with the apprenticeship programs, to build the skills of the community so community members can participate in actually building the affordable housing. Because this has to go hand in hand if we really want to have lasting economic impact on the community. In addition, unlike Donald Trump, my plan is not about trying to put money in the back pockets of developers. It's about putting the money in the community. Because, you know, he's had all these opportunity zone kind of things, and that's been all about rich people making a whole
So I'm Assemblywoman Dina Neal, and so I'm really glad that you brought up the historical disparities. For future careers in emerging technology like AI.
Yes. So a big area of focus for me on education is focusing on our HBCUs. I'm a proud graduate of Howard University. I do know that when we think about, you said AI, STEM, science, technology, and really it's to be STEAM, science, technology, engineering, arts, and math, that our HBCUs have been a great pipeline provider to get into those fields. And so there's a big part of my plan that is about investment in our HBCUs, including investing in our students so that they will not be burdened with student loan debt. 85% of Black college students come out with an exorbitant amount of debt, which then prevents them from entering some of the fields for which they have a passion because they just can't afford to live. Another piece of this is about what we need to do to transition people into the jobs of the 21st century. Over the next 15 years, up to 40% of the jobs that currently exist will no longer exist. And we need to deal with that. So part of my plan of action is that for folks who need to transition to acquire new skills for the jobs that need to be filled, they'll get an $8,000 tax credit that can be applied to the cost of the training, including the cost of childcare and transportation to take on the training. Because we need to give people the support to actually transition into those jobs. In addition, it is my strong belief that we've got to we have to reconfigure how we've been thinking about education in America. Now, certainly I could talk extensively about what that means K through 12, but I'm going to talk about what that means in terms
the job that requires a college education to the point that on in terms of being better in providing education after high school. And then we can talk about the tracks, right? And there are going to be various tracks. For some, that will be college, and we never want to discourage our kids from going to college. But for some, it will be education after high school that helps them get the certificate that is necessary to take the job, right? And understanding each one of these tracks and the jobs that they will produce provide great value. So that's how I think about it overall.
Thank you again for being here, Senator Harris. Great to see you again. You talked about community health, your generational wealth. You talked about education, and you ended your comments indicating that justice is on the ballot.
Yes.
Last April 2018, I was a candidate. You and I sat at a table together, and you talked about my candidacy for Attorney General. And you don't know this, but I have a hashtag in my office now, and it is "Our Job is Justice." And that's based on our conversation.